violate, violate, violate. So, let's talk about the word violate. The part of speech for violate is primarily a verb, which means it shows an action or state of being. Common usage includes breaking or disregarding rules, laws, or agreements, as well as causing harm or offense to someone or something. For example, you might say, the new policy violates the rights of employees, or her actions violate the trust that was placed in her. It's also worth noting that violate can sometimes be used as a noun, referring to an act of breaking or disregarding rules. But verb usage is much more common. What's interesting about this word is its connotations. It has a strong sense of wrongdoing or harm, which can make it a bit tricky to use in polite conversation. So let's dive into some practical examples of how to use the word violate in different contexts. In a formal situation, such as a court hearing, someone might say, the company's reckless disregard for environmental regulations will surely violate federal laws if they continue down this path. This usage is very straightforward, implying that someone or something is breaking a rule or law. On the other hand, in a casual conversation with friends, you might use it in a more relaxed way. Like this: dude, I thought we agreed to keep the party quiet after 10 p.m. Now you're going to violate my house's peace and quiet agreement. Here, the tone is lighthearted, but still implies that someone is breaking an understanding or agreement. Lastly, in a business or academic setting, you might say, the researchers' study found that the new marketing strategy would likely violate consumer trust if not implemented carefully. This usage is more formal and suggests that something is at risk of transgressing established norms or expectations. So, you want to know about this word? It refers to an action that goes against established rules or principles of a community, group, or institution, often causing harm or offense to others. Think of it like breaking a social contract, where someone acts in a way that's not acceptable or respectful towards the norms and expectations of those around them. For example, if you're in a classroom and your phone rings, but instead of turning it off or silencing it, you let it ring out loudly. That would be an example of this concept. It's like doing something that intentionally disregards what's considered polite or acceptable in a given situation. Vision, vision, vision. So, let's talk about the word vision. The part of speech is noun, which means it can be a thing, an idea, or a concept. In common usage, we use vision to describe a mental image or picture of something that you imagine or hope for, like having a clear vision for your future or seeing a specific goal in your mind's eye. We also use it to talk about the ability to see things clearly and sharply, such as someone with perfect vision can read without glasses. Additionally, vision is often used to describe the leadership style or overall direction of an organization. Like a company has a strong vision for its future growth and development. A special note about this word is that it's often used in phrases like, have a vision, or, share your vision, which means to have or communicate your ideas and goals with others. So be mindful of these expressions when using the word in context. Here are 3 practical example sentences using the word vision, along with a brief context explanation for each. At the annual charity gala, the CEO gave an impassioned speech about his organization's 20-year vision to eradicate poverty worldwide and what steps they would take to make it a reality. The formal tone of the speech was perfect for the occasion. and the audience was inspired by the CEO's clear and ambitious plan. Over brunch with friends, Sarah mentioned that she had always dreamed of starting her own boutique hotel, and now she felt like she finally had a clear vision of what kind of luxurious getaway experience she wanted to offer. Her friends were supportive and asked follow-up questions about how she planned to make it happen. And they all ended up making plans to visit the hotel once it opened. In a meeting with his graduate students, Professor Thompson explained that their group project would require them to develop a strategic vision for improving urban sustainability by analyzing current trends and forecasting potential outcomes. He emphasized the importance of considering multiple perspectives and coming up with innovative solutions to real-world problems, and then assigned each student specific tasks to complete before the next meeting. So, you want to know what vision means? Well, basically, it's a mental image of something that you imagine or hope for, like a picture in your mind of how you'd like things to be. It's a clear idea of what you want to achieve or create, and it usually includes details about the way things should look, feel, or work. For example, someone might have a vision for a new business, where they imagine what it would be like to run a successful company with happy customers and talented employees. This concept is often connected to ideas like dream, ideal, or aspiration, which all refer to things that people hope to achieve or create. In terms of how it's used, having a clear vision can help guide decision-making and inspire action, so it's an important tool for individuals and organizations working towards a specific goal. Adjacent. 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 The word adjacent is an interesting one. As a verb, it means to be in close proximity to something. So you might hear phrases like, the house is adjacent to the park, which implies that they share a border. But most of the time, adjacent is used as an adjective, describing something's position relative to another thing. In common usage, we often use it to describe buildings or streets that are side by side. So you might hear people say, the coffee shop and restaurant are adjacent, which means they're right next to each other. A special note about its usage is that while it's easy to confuse with words like next or nearby, adjacent implies a physical connection between the two things, often sharing a common boundary. So if you say, the library and bookshop are adjacent, it means they literally touch each other. The professor stood at the front of the lecture hall and explained that the adjacent buildings on campus would be renovated to provide additional study space for students, making it easier for them to work on group projects together. In a casual conversation with a friend who had just moved into a new apartment, you might say, I'm glad you got an apartment so close to the park. By the way, your adjacent unit has a great view of the lake. Meanwhile, in a business meeting, the CEO mentioned that the company was considering acquiring an office building directly adjacent to their current headquarters, which could lead to significant cost savings and improved communication with employees. So you want to know what adjacent means? Well, let me explain it in simple terms. Imagine two things that are right next to each other, with no space or gap between them. That's basically what adjacent means. Something is directly beside another thing, often on the same level or plane. For example, if you're talking about a house and its walls, the words adjacent would describe the fact that they share a border, but are not separate entities like a wall in front of it. It's similar to concepts like next, nearby, or side by side, which all hint at something being close or connected. But adjacent specifically implies a direct physical connection without any distance or separation. between them.